For being here. I'm just going to go through and make sure everyone's muted really quick. And then here we go. Okay. So first of all, Dr. Sachs is amazing. I don't know if you've ever had the chance to meet her, but she's such a sweetheart. And here's her bio. So she graduated with honors from the Mount Sinai School of Medicine in New York and completed her residency in internal medicine at two New Haven hospitals, St. Raphael's and Yale. Prior to obtaining her bachelor's degree in molecular biology and philosophy, Dr. Sachs studied naturopathy for several years in France. Sorry if I butchered that. She was an emergency medicine doctor for 5 years, a primary care doctor for 10 years, and Dr. Sachs has also served on various medical advisory boards, including the Scientific Advisory Board for the National Coalition for Women with Heart Disease. She has published work on osteoporosis and a medical textbook on complementary and alternative medicine. For the past 13 years, she has been in private practice in Milford, Connecticut, using nutrition and functional medicine to help heal and prevent chronic illnesses. Her website is a growing resource full of credible, vetted, cutting-edge health information, aka take advantage of that. So take a look at tsaxmd.com and I'll post that. But just in case you didn't see that she's obviously incredibly credible, here's Dr. Sachs. Welcome. Thank you so much. Hello?
Oop, I was muted. Sorry. Hi there. Thanks for that intro.
Sure.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
As they say. There you go. I was saying my even more favorite claim to fame on my bio, which you didn't mention, is I've been a main stage speaker for Juice Plus twice, and I'm really proud of that. That means a lot to me. So that's another of my little bio things. So nice to be on this call again. Thanks for having me.
It's our pleasure. Thank you for coming on the call. We appreciate it.
Great. So I wasn't given any particular tasks, so I don't know most of you from the names I heard bandied around. Maybe I've met some of you, but I apologize. So I'm gonna weave my story into some information that I shared recently with my team that I hope you'll find useful. So for those of you who don't know me, I've been around this company, this business for a long time. I became a rep in 1999, so I've been here a long time. And so we were introduced, my husband and I, Joe, were introduced to this product that many years ago, 17 years ago plus. And my initial reaction, I'm embarrassed to tell you, was complete cynicism, and my task in life became to save my friend Frances from this snake oil scoundrel scammy business. So I said to her, research, bah, of course there's no research. Show me what they're calling research and I'll show you what nonsense this is. You cannot put fruits and vegetables in a capsule. That's ridiculous, I said. I swear to God, sorry. I'm embarrassed what I did. And so she showed me, at the time we had 5 studies, and she gave me the 5 studies, and I was blown away. I ate a lot of crow and I was blown away, and I was blown away in part because I had studied this stuff many years before, but we didn't have that level of sophistication of being able to measure antioxidants. We just talked about them. And so it opened a world up to me of molecular biology, which was my first degree, where I had ended that degree, that study, 10, 15 years later. The science had taken a huge leap and bound, and that's what she was showing me, was the research on food that I'd kind of only dreamt about. So it was really a big eye-opener for her, and as most cynics who become converts, I became a horrible convert, and I became an overwhelming, in-your-face, you have to look at this stuff, it's amazing kind of person. I went from one extreme to the other. But what Frances did not know, Frances was the person who introduced us to Juice Plus, and she was a college buddy of mine, really a bar drinking buddy of mine. She had no credibility in terms of health, nutrition, science, anything. When I was going to medical school, we used to hang out and drink and whatever. And so when we expressed some interest, when she finally did get through to us, it's another story. I wouldn't even look at this stuff, apparently. I don't remember for a long time until she finally got smart and gave me Ture's tape to my husband, Joe, and said, Joe, you should listen to this. I think you really like it. And Joe, being a gentleman, said, of course I will, Frances, and he did, as opposed to me, who apparently said, nah, I don't have time, nah. And he was kind, and so he listened to it, and then he told me to listen to it, and then of course, because he said it, he said, "You really like this, Tamara," and because it came from him, I of course listened to it, and then I loved it, and I thought Miche Ray was amazing, and I synced and jived and resonated with her right away, and we've later became dear friends. But that first CD of what am I saying? Tape. It was a cassette tape of hers. Really turned things around. And Frances apparently took a couple of, she says, years. Who knows? I don't remember. But apparently, much perseverance on her part before she finally gave it to the spouse. And that's a lesson to be learned. And so it came from full negative to full positive. And what Frances didn't know at the time was that we were actually looking at business. We were very business minded, both of us. I've been an entrepreneurial spirit my whole life. I've sold things door to door since I was literally 10 years old. I'm just that kind of person, and Joe was too. And for those of you who don't know, Joe has since passed, and I'll get to that part of the story later without much drama, thank you. But at the time, Joe also was very business oriented in that we were learning about money finally. Joe was a surgeon, I was an internist. Joe had a practice with 2 partners and 4 offices and 18 staff. And I had one little practice by myself. We were juggling, both of us being on call at different hospitals with a 1-year-old at home. We both couldn't be on call at the same time because we have a 1-year-old at home and no family anywhere nearby. So it was a constant juggle with emergency room schedules and on-call schedules. And being in private practice has its own headaches. Its own blessings. You're your own boss and you make good money, but you also can't ever leave because the overhead will kill you if you're not always working. So we were at that position of making good money, but not having time, and in our 30s in our career, and wanting something different, not wanting to be doing that for 20 years. So we had been looking at things. We had thought about writing a book or doing something for royalties. We'd actually looked at Amway at one point. We were looking at we thought network marketing was very cool, by the way. We just didn't like Amway. We didn't like those people. We didn't like soap. This wasn't us. So when Frances approached us, little did she know that while we looked great on the outside, looked like really successful, happy professionals, young family, blah, 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 we were actively searching for a way out, for a way to not be trading our hours for dollars. So the first step, of course, was the product and getting that. And the research for me was everything, and then being on it and giving it to our daughter in powders, and that was huge. That was, without that, nothing else would have happened. But when she mentioned the business, we asked more questions, and when she realized she was out of her league because she was new in the business and wasn't very big in the business, she put us in touch with her upline, who was Cynthia Gompers, and many of you know Cynthia Gompers, who's a huge 100 Club Founders member. And so Cynthia Gompers came down from New Hampshire, wherever she was, I think New Hampshire at the time, to Connecticut and met with us for over lunch and drew on a napkin the marketing plan and explained to us the business and explained to us how we would, get help and, get training. And when she got to the benefits package, she had us. Essentially, we didn't know it yet, but in retrospect, she had us at the NMD benefits package. For those of you that are brand new, it means full medical, full dental, full disability, life insurance, and a bunch of other perks I won't go into. But for us, it was the medical insurance. We were self-employed, both of us, and paying close to $3,000 a month for 3 healthy people to get basically nothing in coverage. So, what they were telling us was to talk about a price that we believed in, that had research, that was in our comfort zone, if you will. That if what they were telling us was that if we did that for a part-time effort in 2 to 3 to 4 years, we could make a residual income forever and have full medical and health dental benefits. It was like too good to be true. In fact, we thought it was for a while. We did our due diligence. We met with the VPs. We grilled them mercilessly. I'll tell you, we were pretty bad. We really had never put our names or our medical reputations behind something before, and we wanted to make sure before we did that we would regret it. And so we did. And Ron Watkins, bless his little heart, if those of you who know him, Ron Watkins is a senior vice president of field relations. And we were at a boot camp. We had just barely signed up. We were still a little iffy. And around a campfire, which is what's great about a boot camp, and those of you that have been to boot camp know it's a small, intimate kind of fair where you get to really meet corporate people and get to know them. And around a campfire, probably with a couple of beers and all of us at least, and some s'mores, we grilled poor Ron about like crazy things, like, you know, what would happen if, you know, like Jay Martin, everybody died in a plane crash tomorrow. What is the plan? Is there a plan? Is it written? Where is it? I mean, who's in charge? I mean, we really wanted to know how good and careful a company this was. And we really found out that it was not only a company that we could trust, and the people, that the culture was something that we really felt comfortable with, that there was a culture of always under-promising, over-delivering, a culture of, you know, doing better than what was expected, of going above what was commonly done always, of not bragging about it, which I kind of regret now that I'm here, I'm in a different position now. I wish the company did a better job of bragging about how great they are, but you know, that kind of culture where Joe and I really felt comfortable, where we saw ourselves thriving and growing. So we did. So in 18 months working together, we achieved an MD. That's one position with two people working. So don't compare it with somebody doing it alone. Let's be fair. We made one position by working together, but you know, we had two busy practices, being on call every third night for emergencies in the ERs with the toddler. We gave up date night. We gave up television completely. We gave up, you know, weekends. You know, we gave up our ego. I mean, we did stuff that we were not comfortable doing. We were in the Danbury Fair Mall, which is, you know, local to us, in the mall with a booth for 3 days over a weekend. And that's how we went QNMD. And we didn't have cell phones that worked in those days in the mall. And so I would run to the payphones and call corporate and call in orders and like, are we there yet? Are we there yet? And that's how we did it. And believe me, it was not comfortable being a doctor and having patients walk by your booth and asking you, what are you doing there? And you know that in their head, some of them are thinking, she can't be that, or at least I'm thinking that they're thinking. Who knows what they're thinking, right? But in my head, I'm thinking some of them must be thinking she can't be that good of a doctor if she's doing this. It was hard. And so those of you that think it's easier being a doc doing this, I can tell you for many, many reasons, it's not. You can't talk to your patients about more than the product. You can't. I've never recruited a patient in my business. That would be catastrophic. So there's a lot of limits, and there's a lot of perceived issues. And it was true also with just sharing it with patients. I'll share with you the turning point for me, because taking it ourselves was easy. We read the research, we saw how it was made, we saw the quality control, we knew what NSF was, you know, we knew that kind of quality level of third-party independent labs. You know, I got that it was sold in Australia and New Zealand and places that had much better, stricter controls than America. So the quality was never an issue. My belief in the research was never an issue. So I knew that it was, you know, better than food in a lot of ways. Better because it was fresher, because it was, you know, it was food that we could never eat. That people aren't eating raw kale and raw broccoli and raw all this stuff every day. So, you know, the processing might take this teeny bit away, but by making it available and accessible and affordable, it's so outweighed the fact that it was minimally processed is to be a joke. In fact, because it was minimally processed is why people would actually take it. Because any less processed, it's food, and people aren't eating 15, 20 servings of food, certainly not 30 different kinds of food. So there was no question it was perfect in all those kinds of ways. The only issue was us. You know, the only issue was our commitment. And once we made that commitment, there was really no stopping us. And you know, I think one of the things I wanted to share with you all tonight that I think is really near and dear to my heart is this idea that came to me really this day, I'll tell you about with this patient, but this idea that we all have an obligation. You know, I was blessed, Joe and I were blessed that Frances opened her mouth and had the courage and the perseverance to get it through my thick head and to have Joe listen and to be a part of this product, this business, this community. We are so fortunate. And so I feel an obligation, and I think all of us who have been fortunate enough to know about this company have an obligation to pass that on. It's like if you knew about a cure for something and you didn't tell someone who was sick. It just, right, you couldn't sleep at night. And that's how I think we should all feel about not just this product, but this business. And that's really my message to you all, is that every time you don't share both of these opportunities with somebody, you're robbing them, and you're doing it, as I will explain, as I've learned this. What I learned was every time I don't share both or one of those two things, it's because of me. It's because I am feeling in some way limited. It's always because of me. I'm afraid of what they'll think. I'm afraid of what they'll feel. I'm afraid of what I'll feel. I'm afraid of something, or I'm resistant to something. But it's never about them, because the minute it's about them, I would tell them about fruits and vegetables in a capsule and an amazing company where you can make a residual income by helping other people get healthier and wealthier. How cool is that? Why wouldn't I tell everybody that? So I know for a fact that whenever I don't tell everybody that, it's about me, and that's what I want to share with you tonight. So one day, 16, 15, 14 years ago, I'm not sure, let me think for a minute, 2001, beginning of 2001, maybe even before, 2000, I'm sitting in my office in front of a patient, this poor little old lady, I can see her face, this delightful little old lady who had had everything bad happen to her because of doctors. Everything that could have gone wrong, every side effect, every misadventure, as they're called, every negligence, every bad move that a doctor could ever have made, they've made on this poor woman. And she's in front of me here, 70-something years old, with, cataracts from the prednisone that was caused by the this, that was caused by the that. Everything is somebody else's fault, in a sense. And I'm sitting here thinking, I could help this lady. I've not told the patient yet about 2+. I have not yet told the patient. It's been about 3 months I'm taking it, and I'm not comfortable yet telling a patient, because that means I'm selling something. And those of you who don't understand, 15 years ago, doctors in small towns did not sell things without getting into big shit, big trouble. And I'm in a small hospital, and I'm whatever. She's sitting in front of me, and nothing she got, she deserved. And I got something that would help her. And so I finally woke up, and I finally realized it wasn't about me, and that I had an obligation to tell this woman that she could get, fruits and vegetables. We didn't have Vineyard at the time, fruits and vegetables in a capsule, and that it would help her. It would help everything that she had going on. And I did. I told her, and she was happy, and it was good. But it was like this weight off of my shoulders. I cannot even tell you this realization that it wasn't about whether I get in trouble. It wasn't about whether people would stop referring to me, whether people would think that I was trying to sell them something, about whatever I was so worried about. It was about the fact that this woman needed this stuff, and I had it, and I had to tell her. End of story. It was my obligation, ethical, moral, whatever you want to call it. I couldn't have the cure and her have the disease and me not share it. And I think we're all in that boat. And I think the business is even more important, because there's no way you can be healthy or well or happy when you're always worried about money. And I have patients who are single moms with 3, 4, 5 kids. Money's a big deal to being healthy. You can't feed 4 or 5 kids as a single mom, working mom, if you don't have money. You can't, do stuff. You can't have, sports be just a fun thing. I mean, life is tough. And so helping somebody make $500 a month is not a small deal. And those times that you haven't made that clear to somebody, shame on us. I've done it. I'm guilty of it for sure. I didn't tell my own housekeeper for years. And this was years ago. I'm sorry to say it took me that long, but I had a prejudice. I honestly didn't think of her. Just didn't, until I did. And I never not thought of someone, I hope again, but I'm sure I have. So just keep in mind that your gift of health and wealth are both equally important. And so my story, with our time here, continues. But so we went in MD, and we got our benefits, and we were 24 Club, and we got to speak, and we had a grand old time. And our daughter grew up in this business, grew up hearing Jim Rohn, and she'll spew things out from Jim Rohn without even knowing that she's doing it, because she just kind of grew up on it all. And she's been to conferences since she was knee high. And anyway, it was a fun run, and we got to travel a lot and grow team all over, and had a really good time. And then many years ago, 8 years ago now, the unthinkable happened, and Joe, triathlete, amazing, healthy specimen that he was, dropped dead of an arrhythmia, totally out of the blue. You know, if it wasn't for this business, I don't even want to think about it. But because of this business, because we had built a stable business with 5 people, a few more, but 5, it turns out, in retrospect, who were solid, who had their own reasons for building this business and had already done so. And so we had this structure such that I could completely not work our 2+ business for about 3 years. And I still got a check. And this is still my main means of support. And we didn't have to leave our huge home that Joe had just built a 2,000 square foot addition on with very little money out of the bank. He did it all pretty much as he went along, without having to stop my daughter from going to her expensive private school, without having to move or any of the things that typically happen to relatively young widows in this country. You know, when their husbands die, you know, it was not a good day. It was not a good year. It's not been a great decade, but I'll tell you, financially at least, that has not been the problem. And I am eternally grateful that I didn't have to go back to being a doc in the box or doing some kind of horrible medicine I don't believe in, just to be able to afford to put my daughter through college. I didn't have to do any of that, and I'm eternally grateful. And so our plan B, which is what we signed up for, became our plan A. Little did we know, but thank God Joe did, because what happened in the intervening years, those 7 years while he was alive, I neglected to share, but I just want to close with this, is, you know, we both got to change our lives around. You know, Joe had been, it's a long story, but had been in a car accident, and being a surgeon was just painful and no longer fun, and he had the option of no longer being a surgeon. He didn't want to be anymore, but financially, this business gave him that choice. He got to be a stay-at-home dad. In retrospect, what a blessing that was, huh? Margot had him for 7 years, every day off the bus, doing her homework with him. Every day he was home because he worked our business from home. And he got to work for Habitat for Humanity and a bunch of other charities. And he really had, you know, a great time building our business. And I got to do the things in my business that I liked, like speaking, but he did the hard work of building our business. And I got to change my entire practice, give it away, and go back to school and do functional medicine and learn about chemistry and toxicology and just be a student because we could live on our 2+ income. So both of us got to completely change our careers and end up doing what we truly, truly loved. And it turns out what truly, truly mattered. Margot had her dad the way most kids don't have their dads, even though she lost him when she was 12. She had him more than most kids have their dads their whole lives. He was there, and we traveled together as a family all the time. So, you know, as tragic as certain things are, I'm still blessed, hugely. And then I didn't have to work. I didn't have to worry about money. And then I was able to, you know, 5 years ago now, pick up the gauntlet, as it were, and relearn this business and learn what Joe did and pick it up. And I've since doubled it in size. We've gone to 50 and above club, or we hit 74. You know, when Joe died, we were 24 club. So life goes on, and the business is there. And because we built it right, and with people that we could count on for having their own reasons for doing it, not for us, it was there the whole time I wasn't present, and it's still here today. And that whole time, not only did it nourish me and my daughter, but countless other people. You know, 1,000 people in our business have been nourished in one way or the other because Frances was brave enough to speak to 2 doctors who were drinking buddies about a nutritional pipe that she only knew a little bit about. And you have to give it to her. You have to give her credit, and you all have to, I hope, take a lesson in how important and how different my life and my daughter's life would be right now if that had not been the case. So I will leave it at that this evening. I hope to see you all at conference. If I do, come give me a hello and a hug and introduce yourselves.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sachs. We appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Have a great
night, everybody. Good night.
Tamara, thank you. You just rocked it. Just love you to pieces, babe. You're awesome.
Thank you. Take care. Have a good night. See you all at conference.
Bye.
Bye.